In economies like Nigeria, SMEs contribute about 50% to the gross domestic product (GDP) and account for over 80% of active employment. It is such an important sector, reducing unemployment and boosting the drive to reduce poverty in Nigeria, most especially as the government looks to fast-track growth of the economy beyond oil. Unlike most sectors with potential to face a decline, the SME sector is likely to continue to grow. However, as important as the sector is to the economy, it faces lots of issues that result to business failure, top of which is lack of needed support needed in terms of funding, with other known business challenges such as poor infrastructure, inconsistent government policies, and high foreign exchange rate. So this morning we're taking a look at how SMEs can actually be founded in Nigeria. My guest is already here. We'll take a break now. When we come back, with the grand running, please stay with us. Welcome back. This morning we're taking a look at how to finance SMEs in Nigeria, and I have my guest in the studio. He's going to do justice to it. I have Mr. ABIODUN, financial expert, and also, as a matter of fact, a retired banker. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me once again. Good morning, viewers at home.
Yeah, let's take a look at this sector. SMEs it also contribute around 50% to the GDP, also generate a lot of employment. What's your assessment of this sector?
Thank you very much. When we look at other countries that are getting it better than us when it comes to employment and opportunities for the common man, you will find out that SMEs contributing 50% is abysmally low. In places like Australia, China, and places where they are coming up and getting it very right economically, SMEs usually contribute not less than 90% of the GDP. Why? Because that is where we find the pool of entrepreneurs, unlike big large-scale industries.
So why is it that the sector is contributing so much to that sector in that those countries that I have mentioned are not so in Nigeria?
Basically, I think it's because of lack of conducive environment for them. Over time, we've not created conducive environment for these people. We've overlooked them, so to say. But I think it's right time we start beaming our searchlight and making the environment more conducive for them, so that they can.
Because mostly we're focusing on how to actually finance the sector by individuals, also showing interest, because we have a lot of startups who want to go into small scale businesses. But when you take a look at what people are also saying on the street, they will tell you funding is not important. What is important is idea. Are you also part of that school of thought?
Yes, I believe funding is very important, but idea is much more important than funding.
Okay, well, when you have an idea and you cannot find that idea, what happens?
You become frustrated. I can't lie to you. If you have an idea, you can't fund it, you become frustrated. And a lot of people really have an idea and they don't subject it to fine-tuning by experts, because some ideas are very good on paper, but they can't still. They are not marketable. They are not practicable. Yes, they can even be practicable, but to penetrate into market and get all that fine tunings of it, so that we can have return on investment, can really require that experts put they have expert input before they. So basically, we need both idea and funding for SMEs to thrive. But most importantly, you must have the idea, and you must have an idea that is viable and economically sellable. And
So how do you know if that idea is sellable or not?
Yes, practically there are some people that are already in the field of branding, sales, and marketing. Now, an aspect of entrepreneurship is for you to be able to generate a economic value. Another aspect is for you to be able to sell it. So it's those people that are into branding, marketing and sales that we look at it critically and say, okay, take my advice, go through this way, go through this way, go through this way. Basically, we usually advise them to start small. If an idea is good, over time we will start gaining market dominance. I don't know whether you are getting,
yes,
but for mere having idea is not enough for an entrepreneur or an SME to thrive. So that's just it.
Well, the funding of it, when you take when we look at what SMEs is also contributing to employment creation in Nigeria. From my introduction, I talked about 80%. To me, it shows that the sector is also not doing bad.
No, you didn't say it's not 80% yet in Nigeria.
That is, the GDP is 50%.
Okay.
In terms of contribution to employment generation, it's 80%.
Yes, they are not doing badly, but when you look at the number of unemployed, the employment rate hit 41% in the last release. So that means that if we have 100 Nigerians that are employable, 41% of them are not doing anything. So we still have a long way to go in terms of this pulling people out of the labor market. Are you getting me, sir? So if we are SMEs are contributing 80%, I believe it's still not enough, because even when we compared our GDP rate to the population we have, we are underutilizing our resources. When we look at population wise, we are underutilizing our resources compared to other countries like Singapore and Brazil that are in our population bracket. So what I'm saying in essence is that we need to do more of using the products we consume locally for us, made in Nigeria good. Thank you very much, sir. So that we can really harness what we have locally for our local use. So I believe that if we want to generate idea, we should generate it towards that range of thinking that, look, what are the things they use in Nigeria? How can I contribute? How can we stop importing some of these little things from China and Malaysia? So
entrepreneurs should be solution solvers.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's look at the founding of the SMEs, because that's also very important. When you also agree that if you have an idea and there's no fund to back it up, that might also just be in the shelves gathering dust. But how can one actually finance SMEs?
Thank you very much. We have so many funding sources for SMEs. We have the Bank of Industry, we have the Bank of Agriculture, and we have some other. We have the commercial banks who have set up special funds for SMEs. All the banks, virtually all of them, have keyed into this provision made by CBN. That certain percentage of your funding should be directed to SMEs. Now, as an internal person, the challenge we usually have is we have this idea that may not be marketable, because banks are very error, because what they don't like, banks don't like trial and error. So we can have this idea and we find out that we can't present this credit for approval because they don't meet the risk acceptance criteria. So a lot of people have been doing have not been doing making their transaction available for banks to look at their financial history. Are you getting me, sir? So these are some of the challenges.
Would you also say that policy is also applicable to the startups, those who are just starting this?
Yes, startups can come up with idea and start small, but for them to get funding, that means that that should be intervention in funding. That's what will be applicable to those startups, because banks, grants. There was a grant that President Jonathan was doing then. You win. I don't know what happened to it, But don't let me go there. So for startups, the risk is too high for banks to plunge in head on. Otherwise, it will be difficult for their money to come back. Are you getting me, sir? So banks are very not that. They are very, very. I don't want to use reluctant. They hardly fund startups. But if you have a business idea, you have been running. Let me say you have been running a textile industry, and you want to divest into distribution of textile. Bank will look at that because they already know that you are into this business. It's just another aspect of expansion that you want to do. But if you just come with idea, okay, I have this machine that can use water to generate electricity, and you don't have market for it, it is going to be difficult for banks, as in the conventional bank, to fund you. That is why we advise them to go to interventionist agency like Bank of Industry.
So for startups now, from your analysis now, for startups now, commercial banks is a no-go area.
I'm not saying it's a no-no.
You also take a look at
it depends on.
You also look at the interest rate in Nigeria. The interest rate is around 22%.
Yes, this interest rate, there are factors that we use to calculate interest rate. For instance, there is something we call MPI or MPC. That is the basic interest rate that CBN releases. Now, it's MPR. Sorry, monetary policy rate. Now, this monetary policy rate has to do with how money supply is being managed. Like I said the other time I was here, the data with CBN is that the inflation we are experiencing is as a result of excess money supply. Now, excess money supply is in the system, is not being made use of productively. So in order to curb it, what CBN do is that they raise interest rate in such a way that there won't be inflation. So the reason why we have this interest rate minimum of 22% is to control inflation. But for SMEs, for them to be able to access loans profitably, they need to go to this interventionist agents. They need to go to interventionist agents, and when they start, if they are moving, they can now approach the conventional commercial banks. So
at what rate would they get loan from these interventionist agencies?
Yes, before COVID, interventionist agencies, they are doing it at 9%. That's trying to bring it down to a single digit. In fact, during COVID, the federal government came up with a policy that for next 1 year, all the loans that are already granted on interventionary basis should be reduced to 5% so that industry can survive. I think some industry really benefited from it. So now the interest rate is reverted back to 9% for those that are enjoying federal government intervention funds.
So would you say that with that 9%, operators of this sector can also function appropriately and positively?
Yes, I believe. I believe with 9% interest rate, it's by international standard is fine. That is if your idea is actually economically viable.
So how do we make an idea economically viable?
Yes, I tried to paint the picture earlier on by saying that look at what you are bringing to the market. Is it a product that everybody needs, or is it a product whose need you can create? Now there are some products that you don't need. People don't really need it to survive, or people don't need them to survive. But over time, you start creating the needs in them, in people, that look, yes, this is it's not a product that you are used to, but it will make life easier for you. Sales, marketing, projection, branding, and influence. These products will penetrate the market if you have the right advisors and right agency behind you.
So you're also trying to suggest that for anybody to come into that business, they should consult the consultant.
Yes, there's no harm asking for professional advice. that this is my idea, this is the way I'm seeing it. Let people that have been on the field look at it from professional point of view. Before you know it, you can be there up and making a lot of money. I have a lot of friends that are doing startups and they are doing very, very well. For instance, there are some products that are not even supposed to be coming to the country, but they are coming. Basic products. Look at pen, for instance. I'm just using this pen as an example. Most of them, the casing is from petroleum product. Now that we are about to deregulate, you can find out that some people, a chain of industries can come up manufacturing pen at this local level, sort of bringing them in.
You were trying to talk about the attitude, Nigerians' attitude towards consuming made in Nigerian goods. But what about the standard of this made in Nigerian goods?
Yes, thank you very much. I usually campaign for made in Nigeria because I know the implication at the long run. The implication at the long run is unfathomable. The last time I was here, I told you that there are about 6,000 product derivatives for petroleum product.
Is that so?
Household, in fact, including clothing, including all this. Okay, this is glass. Including all these seats and our clothing, most of them are derived from petroleum products. But if we look at trying to capture or allow the value chain of the products we are, raw materials we have here, to circulate within the system, the average manufacturer, the average consumer will benefit. Reason being that anything that we are making here, they are naira denominated. We don't need to depend on FX to source for local material, to source for even when you want to pay salary, you don't need to pay salary in dollars. When you want to access raw material, you don't need to go and look for FX. Some of these products that we are even
to import them.
Yes, some of the products we are importing, they are actually raw material that are even derived from here, taken over there, turned into a semi-finished product, and then they return it back to us. So what I'm advocating is that our policymakers and government should sit down and really identify these products one after the other and ensure that...
Is it because they have not identified, or because the players do not have enough funds to actually ensure that they process these goods or raw materials to final products?
I don't think funding is the problem. From the little information I have, I don't think funding is the problem to our SMEs. The problem to our SMEs basically is, I think, is our attitude towards government funding. Now, what we do when we get government funding is that we think it's national cake, and over time, government will just look at it that this thing is not viable.
So it should be a revolving one.
Yeah, it should be a revolving fund. If we take on, I'm giving 500 million to so person, and then if we have this fund coming back into the system, then we have more to give back to people that are coming in afresh. Like you said, revolving fund. But most of the issues we usually have is when we have intervention in funding like that, we don't use it for the purpose.
Would you say that this intervention fund actually do go to the real players, the genuine ones, the entrepreneurs?
That's what I've said. That is the issue we have. We don't use it for the purpose for which we
is it not using it for the purpose, or also getting to the hands of genuine people?
The same thing, said in different way. Okay, for instance, man, a fund has come, 100 billion. Okay, is it for agricultural funding? Is it for, there was even a program then, cottage agricultural funding. There's another one for small scale farmers, getting a large scale farmer or off-taker to give them like 1 million. Now, by the end of the day, you find out that when these people collect this money, they don't even plow it to agriculture. So one thing about our culture is corruption is always there at every level, and we need to bring it down. We need to
again, because of for what people was actually take away from this program, especially the startups who are also trying to pick one or two things here. You have also identified where we can get grants or loan for our businesses, would you say that they also are aware of the availability of these funds in these intervention agencies?
Well, I wouldn't say they are aware. I wouldn't say they are not aware, because we go.
Because I also know that majority of them have also complained of not having funds to run their businesses. So if they are aware and they know how to access these funds, they should be able to approach these agencies.
That is what I'm saying. We go to the street and we don't see people discussing. I have an idea. I want to approach Bank of Industry, because Bank of Industry is there waiting for you. For people that want to invest into technology.
And they have funds there.
Yes, they do have the fund. In fact, it's so surprising that this part of the world, we are not, this part of the country, we are not harnessing it as other parts like eastern and northern side. In fact, I'm not talking about Lagos. Ondo, Ekiti, generally, we are not taking advantage of what we have in
people are also afraid of getting loans to run their businesses.
No. That's in fact, you get to an extent, your business will need to expand, and you will need loans.
Frankly speaking, you also agree with me that our people are also afraid of getting loans to do business.
They shouldn't be afraid.
Especially the startups.
Yeah, they shouldn't be getting loan. That means it could be maybe a poor knowledge of financial management. Because if there are some ideas that you have, you won't have money saved up to finance it. And that is why these agencies are there. So let me mention the one that is applicable to people that want to go into technology, industrial development. That one is Bank of Industry.
Okay.
They are there ever ready to listen to you. For those that want to go into agriculture, there is Bank of Agriculture. They are there ever ready to listen to you. All you need to do is to package your...
To have a business plan.
Yeah, have a business. Package your proposals. Let it be viable. That for experts will review this thing and they will see the viability of it, and you never can tell. Give it a try, and I know people that are benefiting from Bank of Industry. They are doing very well.
You want to also agree with me that people might not want to approach this agency to get loan, because findings have also shown that within 5-6 years, these small businesses also go under 80-70% of them.
Yes, you are not lying, sir. Now that is another challenge with starting a business. One of my mentors was saying over the social media, I said, look, life is about challenges. It's like people usually go into business. People start business with these Eldorado thinking that they have arrived. You are going to be facing challenges every blessed day in your business. So, in fact, you should envisage that when you start something new, it is likely that headwinds will face you, that you will really want to, go out of business. But you have to summon that courage and develop that thinking that I'm going to see this one through. Every big business that started, they usually have their own initial hiccups. It's from that initial hiccups and failure that people that eventually make it in life and sustain the tempo gain and overcome the headwinds. So usually people should go into start business with the not with the aim now, with the look out for challenges. We look out for the fact that any challenge that I want to arise in the course of this business, I'm going to overcome it, not to chicken out.
As somebody who has also worked in the banking sector for a long time, do you think that it's also very difficult for startups, those just coming to the business, to access the loan? I'm talking about the processes, just like we also have in terms of ease of doing business, the bottlenecks. Don't you think that could also be a factor of people not going into these agencies to actually get a loan?
Yes, the bottlenecks are there, but historically banks are becoming more and more efficient nowadays. You never can tell. in those days that you can go to bank, you want to access loan, you go through the legal mortgage, a lot of things, and you have this long processings. Now banks are looking at ways to become more and more efficient. In fact, there are some banks now that you can dial a code and you get your account credited immediately. Yes, because over time
that must be fintech.
Real commercial banks. Rich commercial bank, you can dial a code and you get it, because they have programming in such a way
without collateral.
Yeah, no, yes, without tangible collateral.
Okay.
But there will be something they really used to assess you, that you have the capacity to pay. For instance, now there is a bank. If your salary enters regularly, the system knows that this regular amount, and it has been coming for the past 6 months. Now, the USSD code will just pull and quickly take a decision that fine, if this person take 100,000 naira every month, and now he's asking for overdrive.
He also has
he's asking for overdrive of 200,000 for 3 months. Then they should be able to cover. So the system takes decision based on your account history. And
because of our time, because time is on our side, how would you advise the startups to actually source for money to finance their businesses?
Yes, for startups, basically for people that are going to technology, industrial thinking, they should approach BOI. Now, what BOI does?
Are they approachable?
Very, very approachable. BOI, they are there in Alagbaka. I think they have a building, BOI building.
Okay.
They are the landlord of that building. So for people that are going to agriculture, they should approach Bank of Agric or approach CBN. For those that can approach CBN, maybe they are in the rural